I don't mean to be so love and light, everything, all this. I think love and light exists because of darkness. I think there is room for anger. I think anger should be felt. I think it shouldn't be held on to, but I also think it's not easy to just let go of just because when you don't know how to let go of it. Sometimes acting out of anger is a necessary experience. I'm sweating, so I guess I'm hydrated, right? Recently, it's really occurred to me that people are terrified of being perceived as naive. I mean, it makes sense because if you're considered naive, people think you're stupid, and people want to take advantage of that. And the first thing we learn to do for ourselves, no matter what, is always to protect our hearts, to protect ourselves. I can't blame anyone about their feelings towards the idea of naivete, which is, I hope that's how you say that word. I hope so, because I'm going to keep saying it like that. The idea of it essentially feels like walking onto a battlefield in a bikini saying, come shoot me, let me see if you can hit me. But I feel like that's due to the way one views the world. When you are terrified of being naive, when you're terrified of getting hurt, you often view the world as a place where hurt is most likely to occur. You may be used to the world being this place where, of course, someone's going to hurt you. Someone is out there waiting to hurt you. They're going to take advantage of you if you show them they can. When people look at how I use my heart, how I feel things and do things, when they look at it as naive, I feel some pushback too. Because I guess I never viewed it like that. I always viewed it like, no, my heart is just open. I am not, if I'm walking onto a battlefield, I'm walking in armored. I'm not just completely careless. I'm walking in like a soldier. I'm walking in ready to protect all that I can, knowing what is right deep down in my soul, and not letting anyone change that for me or turn that into something it isn't. I think when we stay in a state of this absolute fear, this absolute terror that if we are kind, if we are loving, it excuses all the bad. If we keep on understanding, if we keep on empathizing, it excuses the bad and allows for people to keep harming us. When we lead with fear instead of open hearts, then we are very likely hurting each other in an attempt to protect ourselves. Having an open heart doesn't mean giving yourself up for the taking, which sometimes you will get took. But that is what life is. It is highs and lows. It is struggles that you can't imagine, pain that you can't imagine, joy that you can't imagine. We are so afraid to give our all. And I just hope that at some point we can start trying to show more of ourselves authentically. It's not easy because essentially this is a learned behavior. Acting with a super guarded heart. And a lot of us have endured so much pain that of course was not deserved, but was a part of his journey. It can feel like letting go of that pain in an attempt to find peace feels so childish and so stupid and so unfair. It's like, I didn't hurt myself like this, so why am I suffering for it? And that's when I have to look at myself and ask myself why this has to seem like suffering. Which sounds so silly, because it's like, it's suffering, it hurts. Yeah, it's going to feel like suffering. But what if it's just some more emotions of this life that I came here to experience? And this doesn't mean you can't slip up. Being open-hearted, which I'm now going to refer to naive as, being open-hearted gives you room to give yourself and others grace. I grew into someone who was very argumentative. I was still kind, but it's like I knew that I knew what I was talking about. And it was kind of like where I learned to gain my confidence. Because when I was right, I succeeded in winning the argument. And that was it. And so I learned to trust my feelings and trust what I knew in order to protect myself. It kind of felt like all I had was being right. Because otherwise, me being sweet means I'm worthless. I'm just here to be abused and used and looked over. Being this debate team member made me feel like I was valuable and someone to be taken seriously. And so I learned up and down how to argue the heck out of someone. Oh my gosh. Like if you wanted, it was very rare that I felt like anybody else would win an argument. And when they did win, my heart was so stubborn about it. And I didn't start taking a look at this until I saw this quote online that was like, it read, people are doing the best they can from their level of awareness. And initially that felt like an excuse. But then I started to really feel it, and I started to address it without like trying to remove my prior knowledge and my prior experiences and my feelings from like moments interacting with other people. And I used moments that harmed me, and I used moments where someone was just being themselves, because I've argued with both. I've had conflicts with both. Everyone has conflicts with both. It occurred to me way too late that sometimes no one was being hurtful. No one was being careless about their words, but their words meant a completely different thing than I could even fathom. And when people were being hurtful, it was because they had experiences that made sense as to why they would see things that way and handle things that way. And this wasn't a reason to, say screw how I feel about it, but it was a reason to really look at people. And then I started realizing like I'm handling arguments from like this place of needing to be right instead of understanding the other person I'm dealing with. Which is hard, because it's like if someone has said something you completely disagree with, especially if you're very opinionated and you value your thoughts and your feelings, it's like how can you ask me to give myself to understand someone who would feel that way? I realized that mindset in and of itself came from a place of pain, of me feeling like I couldn't be recognized for someone else's feelings. Me being scared that I have to go unnoticed because I've been making so much room for everybody else in every other aspect of my life. This was like the place I was making room for myself and no one else. And there's so many aspects to learning how to be human. But this has been a really big one for me. Because ever since learning that, like I started having way less arguments. I started learning how to diffuse arguments or how to prevent them. I started learning how to communicate my feelings in a way that wasn't so critical and such of an attack. I learned how to set my boundaries and know when I was being firm, not when I was speaking out of pain. And that was hard for me because I had someone in my life who would consistently say I was acting out of pain. And I was like, after all this time, am I? And it really confused me about my sense of self. I really lost my sense of self the way they would say these things. But I was like, no, because I've been very intentional about my thoughts, about my words, and about my actions. And I have been apologetic anyway through when a problem is brought to me or when I feel like I've done something wrong. And I work all the time to communicate better, taking care of me and the people I'm speaking with. So no, I'm not acting out of pain. I'm acting and I'm in pain, and I'm very intentional about it. And so learning that for myself, learning how to not let anybody else just take the reins on what I know to be my truth, I now saw it in a different light than just arguing someone else's truth down. I finally started learning how to be okay with being the villain in someone else's story, which is something I think is hard for kind-hearted people to do, to learn, especially when they're the one they have been taken advantage of all their lives. But kindness does make the world go round. An open heart does make the world go round. It doesn't set you up to be shot at. It sets you up to have a full life with full experiences and full deep feelings. It's not anything to dislike about yourself or to want to change. Sure, you can always want to do things smarter. You know, you can always want to handle things a different way. That's up to you. That's your journey. But there's nothing wrong with knowing who you are and allowing yourself to learn about someone else. There's nothing wrong with knowing who you are and allowing yourself to learn about the both of you, to learn more about the both of you. Disagreements are not toxic. Sometimes arguments aren't even toxic the way they're done. That's a whole longer conversation, but don't be afraid to be considered naive, or at least try not to. I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to just do things, all right? Life is much more complicated than that. Like, I haven't been able to stop smiling all day. And just a couple days ago, I couldn't stop crying. It's a lot. Be gentle with yourself. And when you can, try to be gentle with others. If you are typically seen as naive, there is nothing wrong with you. If you want to open yourself up to other ways of being, do whatever your soul tells you. Do whatever you need to. When people don't understand it, they fear it. And they categorize it into something that they're more used to. And so when their narrative of the world is darker and more harmful, it's gonna seem like you can be one of those dark things. When you challenge what they're used to, especially when you challenge what they know about themselves. When you challenge what people know about themselves, or you put them in a predicament where things are unexpected, that they didn't want to necessarily take on, they didn't want to handle, they didn't want to open themselves to, it can be very triggering for everyone involved. People want everything to fit in their narrative of the world. So what? Make them fit into yours. This platform, we're going to be learning a lot about the world and learning about new ways to view things. All right? Thank you. Thanks for being here. Share with your friends if you want. Love you. See you next time. I can't wait to get better at this. I can't wait to get better at this.